Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep, really deep, into the world of quantum cryptography.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
It is, especially with the essay we're looking at. It's by Jürgen Schneeppert.
Oh, yes.
Called Quantumcryptography, Sicherheit der nächsten Generation.
Catchy.
Which translates to quantum cryptography, next generation security.
Next generation security.
Right. It really makes you think about just how much our world relies on, secure data, and how that's only going to get more important. Schneeppert really dives into how quantum mechanics could completely change how we protect information, especially online.
Schneeppert's work is fascinating, you know. The way he explains complex physics but makes it relevant to, everyday life really highlights why we need this next-gen security, especially with quantum computers on the horizon.
That's what I found so interesting, too. The urgency Schneeppert brings to the topic. He makes it clear, these quantum computers, they're not just sci-fi anymore. And they could totally break the encryption we use today. Stuff like RSA, which relies on math problems that are, at least for now, too hard for regular computers to crack.
Yeah, he even specifically mentions Shor's algorithm.
Oh, right. I remember reading about that.
As a huge EE threat. Because it could factor large numbers so much faster than our computers, it would basically make RSA useless.
Obsolete, poof, gone.
And that's where quantum cryptography steps in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Offering this whole other level of security. It's not just about making encryption harder to break.
Right.
It's about using the laws of physics, the very laws of physics, to make eavesdropping impossible. Not just difficult, impossible, period.
So it's like a whole new ballgame then. Not just tougher locks, a whole new kind of door.
I like that analogy.
And Schneeppert does a great job explaining how these quantum things, like superposition and entanglement, are key to making it work. Let's take the BB84 protocol that he talks about.
Okay, BB84.
It uses the polarization of photons, which is light particles, to set up a secret key between two people.
So help me visualize this.
Mm-hmm.
How does that play out, in a real scenario?
All right, picture this. Alice and Bob need to talk securely. So Alice sends Bob a bunch of photons. Each one is randomly polarized, in one of four possible states. Then Bob measures each photon using a filter, which he also chooses randomly.
Got it. Random photons, random filters.
Right. Later on, they compare their choices. And they toss out any measurements where their filters didn't line up. What's left, those results, that becomes their shared secret key.
Okay, I'm following. But where does the unbreakable part kick in? That's the whole point, right?
Absolutely. And that's where it gets really cool. See, Schneeppert explains that if anyone, let's call them Eve, tries to listen in to intercept these photons and measure them, well, that act messes with the photon's quantum states.
They can't just peak without changing things.
Exactly. It introduces errors. It's like the act of observing changes the thing being observed.
That's Heisenberg's uncertainty principle.
Oh, you got it. And these errors, Alice and Bob, they'll be able to spot them.
So it's a built-in alarm system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone tries to eavesdrop, the alarm goes off, they know something's up.
That's wild.
And it's this security, this deeply rooted in physics security, that makes quantum cryptography so amazing, especially with, quantum computers getting closer and closer.
It's like fighting fire with fire, in a way.
I like that.
But using physics.
Yeah, exactly. Physics as our weapon. One thing that really struck me about Schneeppert's essay, he doesn't just get lost in the theory of it all.
Right.
He actually dives into the nitty-gritty, the challenges of making quantum cryptography actually work.
Yeah, he's very grounded, right?
Yep.
He doesn't shy away from the limitations at all.
Not at all.
Especially when we're talking about, distance and cost.
Ugh, the distance thing. It's a big one.
Huge. Sending these single photons across, huge distances without losing the signal, that's got to be hard.
Oh, it's a major hurdle. Schneeppert, he talks about how, as those photons travel through fiber optic cables, which is what we use now, they can scatter or get absorbed, and that weakens the signal big time.
Makes sense.
It puts a hard limit on how far we can do this quantumkeydistribution thing.
So then how do we get around that? How do we break through that distance barrier?
Well, Schneeppert, he points to quantum repeaters as a possible solution.
Quantum repeaters, yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, basically they're relay stations that can stretch out the range of quantum communication.
Got it.
But without messing with the security, that's the key.
Right.
And they use this really clever technique called entanglement swapping.
Entanglement swapping, that sounds intense.
It is. But basically it lets them connect these shorter, more stable quantum links, kind of like
like
Yeah.
building blocks.
Yeah, into a longer chain. It's wild, right? It's like we're figuring out how to manipulate these mind-blowing quantum phenomena to get around these real-world problems.
I know. And Schnepphat even mentions, remember the Mischus satellite?
Oh, yeah.
That was huge.
Launched by China.
Right.
Yeah.
Demonstrated satellite-based QKD, that's quantum key distribution,
Yeah.
over like 1,200 kilometers.
Wow.
This is a huge deal
Yeah.
because suddenly it's like, oh, we could actually create this global quantum communication network.
A quantum
Schnepphat uses that term, yeah.
Imagine that. Secure communication
Anywhere.
anywhere in the world. It's crazy. But, okay, distance is one thing. What about the cost? Because these systems, I mean, they sound super complex.
They are.
And expensive.
Yes, Schnepphat acknowledges that. The cost right now it's a real barrier to, everyone using this stuff.
Makes sense. It's like any new technology, right?
Right. But as research goes on and, things get more efficient and we start producing more of them.
Economies of scale.
Exactly. The cost should come down. So it's a bit of a waiting game.
It is.
But even with these hurdles, the potential of this tech, it's hard to ignore.
Okay, but this is what I was thinking about when I was reading Schnepphat. Like, are there any other weak spots? Like, could a really clever hacker, could they figure out how to, get around these quantum security measures?
Well, Schnepphat, he does talk about some potential, I guess you'd call them attack vectors.
Attack vectors.
Like, for example, if those single photon sources, the ones they use in QKD, if they're not perfect,
right,
and they accidentally let out, like, multiple photons at once, then an attacker, they could potentially use that extra information.
So it's not just about the theory.
No.
It's about making sure the devices themselves, they have to be flawless.
They have to be rock solid.
Wow.
And Schnepphat highlights some research that's happening right now, like these decoy state protocols, which sounds super cool.
Decoy state protocols.
Yeah. They're trying to make these systems tougher.
Okay.
Less vulnerable to these kinds of attacks. So it's like a constant back and forth, right? The people trying to protect information and the people trying to get to it.
It's an arms race.
Exactly. But, beyond all the technical stuff, Schnepphat also goes into the bigger picture, the societal and economic impacts of this technology.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's not just about keeping data safe. It's about how this new level of security, this unbreakable encryption, could totally change entire industries.
It's a huge deal. Schnepphat, he imagines a future where quantum cryptography revolutionizes things like finance and healthcare.
That makes sense. Those are like the areas where security is paramount.
Right. Like imagine a world where every financial transaction, every bit of your medical data, it's all protected by this unbreakable shield.
It would change how we think about those systems completely.
Totally. Schnepphat even talks about the impact on governments, national security, that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow. So this has implications way beyond our personal data.
Way beyond. And Schnepphat, he doesn't shy away from the tough questions either, the ethical dilemmas.
Mm-hmm. Right. What happens when governments can't access information, even if they say it's for national security?
Exactly. Or when anyone can communicate with, total privacy. No one can listen in, not even, the authorities.
That raises some big questions about, balance of power?
It does. Security versus privacy, freedom versus control, these are not easy things to figure out.
In Schnepphat, he doesn't give us all the answers, right?
No, he leaves us to think about it.
To grapple with these questions.
Which is good, because we need to...
Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot to process, but it's a conversation we need to be having, especially as this technology becomes more widespread.
I agree. Schnepphat, he weaves together all these different threads, the science, the tech, the societal stuff, into this really thought-provoking narrative.
I know. But, okay, before we get too lost in the big picture, let's zoom back in on the tech itself.
Okay, yeah.
Schnepphat mentions this really fascinating idea.
Oh, yeah.
That quantum computers, the very thing that could break all our current encryption,
right,
it could actually be used to make quantum cryptography even stronger.
That's interesting. It's like using the enemy's weapon against them.
I know. It's like fighting fire with fire.
Exactly. Schnepphat explains how these quantum computers, with their crazy processing power, we could use them to design these, next-level QKD algorithms.
Like quantum algorithms to protect against other quantum computers.
Right. Algorithms that can resist attacks from, other quantum computers. It's wild.
So what do you think about that? Is that even possible?
Oh, I think it's definitely possible. Schneppat, he seems to think so too. He suggests that we could use these quantum computers to, develop these quantum-resistant algorithms, like stay one step ahead.
Always evolving.
Right. It's a constant, one-upping each other.
Like a chess game?
Yeah, exactly. But instead of chess pieces, it's qubits.
Quantum chess. I like it.
But it makes you wonder, right? Like, will it always be this back and forth, quantum computers breaking the codes, then being used to make new codes, and so on?
It's a constant race.
It is. But, reading Schneppat, it gave me this sense of optimism.
Really?
Yeah, because it highlights the potential here, the sheer potential of quantum cryptography.
To actually change the world.
To reshape our digital world, yeah. I mean, we've gone from these mind-blowing theories in quantum mechanics to actually using these concepts to create unbreakable codes. It's amazing.
Schneppat really captures that sense of wonder, doesn't he?
He does. And it reminds us that, science, it's not just this abstract thing.
Right.
It has this power to really impact our lives, to change the way we live.
I'm with you on that. So as we wrap up our deep dive here into Schneppat's world of quantum cryptography, what are the big takeaways for our listeners? What should they walk away thinking about?
I think the biggest one is that quantum cryptography, it's not, some far-off sci-fi concept anymore.
It's real.
It's happening. It's a field that's moving fast, and it has these very real applications.
That could affect everyone.
Yeah. I mean, it has the potential to completely change how we think about security and privacy in this increasingly digital world.
It's not just about protecting our data. It's about redefining trust in a world where these quantum computers exist.
Exactly. And Schneppat, he really pushes us to think about the bigger picture, the implications of this technology. What does it mean for governments, for businesses, for individuals to have access to these truly unbreakable codes?
Where are the ethical lines? Where do we draw them?
Exactly. These are questions that we as a society, we need to grapple with.
Absolutely. And Schneppat's essay, it's a great place to start that conversation.
It really is. It sparks this curiosity, this sense of wonder about what's possible with quantum tech.
But also makes us think about the potential consequences, the good and the bad.
For sure. It's not just about the excitement of the new. It's about being thoughtful about how we use it.
Well said. So, to our listeners out there, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring this amazing world of quantum cryptography. Who knows what the future holds?
The future is quantum.